But Neil, as I mentioned, wrote the book No Compromise Leadership, and he asked me to write the foreword to that book. And the book was put up for the Independent Publisher Awards, and he actually won a bronze medal. So I just wanted to show you that he, for business. And of course I told them, I said, man, they must have just gotten to the foreword. They only got through the beginning of it, and they're like, wow, this is awesome stuff.
Yeah, so you can hold it for as long as it took you to write it.
Oh. Before I bring him out from behind the podium, you know, as I was joking about yesterday, it's really hard to kind of go on stage after Robert Cromeans or with Robert Cromeans because he's a rock star. So Neil is a rock star when it comes to business. He's going to talk to us about closing the gap from where you are and where you want to be. It's part of the theme of our conference, Get There. So everybody welcome Mr. Neil Ducoff.
You did great. You can't see the rings glowing in the dark. Robert doesn't have the glowing rings and stuff, huh? Bill, you can wear this if you want. You're welcome. Yes. Jeez. Does everything in our lives have to wind up on Facebook? Okay. Just me. All right. Thank you. It's all right. All right. Let's see. Last 2 years have been interesting, I think, for any of us in business. And if anything, I think the economy has given us a chance to really think about how we perform as business leaders. And in my company, Strategies, you know, I've been doing coaching and training since, I think I first started doing that type of work in 1977. Anyone remember 1970? Anyone remember the 70s who actually was there? Okay. The thing, I guess, that has been important to me all these years has been how so many people get into business and they don't really understand what it's going to take to get what they really want to achieve. So, you know, we can talk about the gap, we can talk about all sorts of things, and I always like to do this thing about, you know, if this is your vision and this is what you really want to build and this is what your dream is, this is what gets you out of bed. So if you get back to the day that you said, I'm going to open a salon or a spa or a salon spa, and I really want to go into business, and it's like, okay, you know, this is my dream and this is what I want. And then you open up a business, and then we start getting into, and it was the reason for the No Compromise Leadership book, you start getting into all this stuff where you go, well, this is what I want, but you know, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that, and I get really uncomfortable doing this. So when those compromises begin to happen, it's harder to achieve whatever it was that you were setting out for. And yet, some people, they'll do absolutely wonderful, or right place, right time, and I'm still waiting for that to happen to me. But you know, the right place, right time for just all the pieces to fall into place. And you know what? If that happens to you, and your business just took off and things are going great, enjoy it, because that's not sustainable. Luck is not sustainable. Luck is called luck. And because you're lucky today, or you're lucky for a period of time, God bless you. You know, or you're lucky for a period of time, it doesn't mean that that's going to get you to this thing that you call, you know, your interpretation of success. Now, we've got owners and managers and front desk and staff here and visitors and all kinds of stuff. And when you start to really think about, what do you really want out of your career? So owners, let's see, you're an owner, your company doesn't care, whether you're the owner or not, all your company cares about is that you're going to take care of this thing called your company. It is your responsibility. You gave birth to it. If you bought it, and now you own it, and all your company, your corporation cares about is that you are going to take care of it and lead it to this path of whatever it is that you wanted to achieve. Somewhere along the line, you get stuck in Michael Gerber wrote about the entrepreneurial seizure, so you get this entrepreneurial seizure, but then you start thinking about the things that you don't want to do. And, I always like to tease people, how many, hate numbers. I think I asked at one of the classes the other day, but, how many of you hate numbers? Come on, let's see. How many of you hate numbers? Come on, get your hands up. Come on, you didn't drink that much. Come on, be proud. You hate numbers. All right, So, and again, if you really hate numbers and you're in business, you got to get over it. You got to get over it because you're going to have to be able to measure, what you do. You got to read a profit and loss statement. You got to be able to read a balance sheet. In the course that we've been doing for 17 years at Strategies, it's called the Incubator. It's for, how many incubator grads in here? Damn, awesome. All right, so when you go through Incubator, you work on a 12-month cash flow plan, and you have to bring your financials. And it's really interesting how people will start working on their financials, and they're going through the financial reports, and as they're trying to take numbers from their historical reports, the P&Ls, and put it into a projection looking forward, they start spotting things. Like they go, well, we have a question. What's that? What's this? I don't know. What do you think it is? I don't know what the hell it is. And they start, and it could be 3,000, 5,000. Anyone ever have the $35,000 miscellaneous? I've seen that. What's this? I don't know. It's miscellaneous. That's like a whole salary or a really nice car. Maybe it is a car. You look guilty. That's what it was, right? But it's amazing. People can get like, I don't, what are these numbers and where did they come from? And they get really, pissed at Incubator when they're working with the numbers. But what's funny is, and we try and tell them is, you brought these numbers with you. If you don't like that number or you didn't know what it was, how long was it residing on your profit and loss statement or even your balance sheet and you didn't know what it was because you never asked? Now, I'm only talking about the numbers piece here. But when you start looking at the gap, and if you really say, what do I really want? What do I really want to be? And I think all of you have some of the good old hotel note paper here. But if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to write down a couple of words to describe what this thing really is. So before you start writing, this is what I want you to think about. Go back to the day you opened your company. And go back to that feeling of excitement. Get back to that feeling of, oh man, the excitement where you couldn't sleep at night because you were excited, not the can't sleep at night stuff now. All right? So, go back to that moment and write down, reconnect with what got you excited way back when. And just a couple of words. What got me excited? What was I building? What did I really want to build here? So I'm going to give you a couple seconds to do that. This is power thinking here, because I only have an hour. What'd you want to build? How do you like the new iPhone? Good? Except the reception stinks? Okay. That is official. Harm's User Group Conference. Reception on the new iPhone stinks. All right, then I'm going to wait. What got you excited about your business? All right, who's got something? What you got? Real loud.
Building something great, a growing profitable business that provides an agent for people to grow their drinks.
Awesome. Give me one more. Ownership? Like what? Ownership of what? All right, but you got the ownership, but that's, okay, now you own it. What are you building? What are you building? You with me? Okay, now you own it. What are you going to do with it? All right. Yeah. Stand up. You designed me the most gorgeous, whatever that thing is called. Thank you very much.
I just remember feeling very passionate and very proud. Somewhere along the way, I think day by day, that slowly.
So you're really passionate, and it kind of did the skid thing.
I think the passion is still there. Like, I felt very proud of my vision and very proud of the opportunity I had put out there. And I think day by day, employee by employee, square foot by square foot, that it gets bigger and bigger. The more I know it, like, the bigger it gets, the more that kind of brought it back.
All right. Okay. One more.
I wanted a very excited and busy staff, and I wanted to be received by the community.
All right. What do you think of those? What do you think? You guys stepped up, so we're just going to put it to the test. What do you think? Yes?
I think like myself, we have these great visions for ourselves, but we didn't really have a vision or a pattern of how we were going to implement it, where we were going to take it.
Here, yeah. What do you got? You were fulfilling a dream, but you didn't have a clue what it was, but it was a dream. All right? You know, but here's the thing. If whatever you wrote, you've got to take a look at that and say, is that the company? Because some of these things that I heard, now I heard the profitability and the sustainability and take care of team and people and whatnot. I heard that sort of stuff. But a lot of what I heard was you. It's you. You know, you have to separate you from your company. Just like you shouldn't be running personal expenses through the company checkbook. Do you all get that memo? See, this trip was okay because it's business, but all right, anyway, we'll leave that alone. All right, but you're building a company. You're building an organization. It is I remember, you know, when I incorporated, for the very first time, I was with an attorney, and really awesome attorney, and she told me the following, and I never forgot it. She said, I always want you to remember, now that you are duly incorporated, and she gave me the seal, and I got, remember the first time you got your corporate seal? You squeezed it on everything? It was just the coolest thing. You just, my corporate seal, all right. But she said, this is not you. She said, this is a legal entity. It is a living, breathing being that just has different vital signs than a human being. The vital signs of the financial reports and all that other cool stuff. Make sense? So where we tend to get stuck is that the business becomes us. The business becomes who we are. And it's, what am I building? Yeah, you can have the dream, but the dream is for the business. All right, now, let's take this one step further. So if we start looking at the gap, so the last 2 years, 18 months, could be a struggle for some. Some of you have done well, but if you just look in general over the last 2 years, 18 months, what happened inside your company? Now, a couple other things that as we go through this, because I got to make it feel, I know you had a good time last night, and I'll bring you down, but I promise to get you back up before we finish in an hour. Because I think that it's important to really look at this. So if you look at what's happened to your company over the last few years, I've seen situations because of the economy that the business survived, but incurred an awful lot of debt to finance its way through the recession. Make sense? All right? I've seen people put payroll on credit cards. Really scary. Really scary. But I've seen people put payroll on credit cards, or just using credit cards for financing. And if you look on your balance sheet, and if you have 5, 6, or 7 credit cards, we need to have a conversation. Because if you've got 5 or 6 credit cards on your balance sheet and you owe this much here and this much there, and if you're starting to play the, ooh, here's a new card and it's the low interest thing and I'm going to write the check because I got 6 months and I'm going to pay down something else, but then all of a sudden that thing goes up to Tony Soprano interest rates. Right? So, again, if you start to see a lot of these credit card debt things popping up on the balance sheet, we need to have a conversation because now, have you all figured out, this is something we teach at Strategies, and it's a wonderful concept. Have you all discovered the true definition of profit? That bottom line profit on your profit and loss, net profit. Have you discovered the truth about that? All right, here's the truth. Profit is not cash. Yeah, who found that out real fast, And again, it's a great joke to say, I called my accountant up the other day. What'd you say? I said I made $10,000 on the P&L he sent me. I asked him a question. Where the hell is it? I could really, but profit isn't cash because there are things that occur on your profit and loss statement that aren't reflected, it's still outgoing cash. When you're making principal payments on loans, that doesn't show up on the profit and loss statement. It's only the interest, all right? If you had profit, but it was the first quarter of the year, and you had lots of gift certificate redemptions, then a lot of the revenue that you were creating, the sales that you were creating, was paid for with prepaid gift cards. So, woohoo, you had a lot of redemptions, sales are way up, and these imaginary numbers, they're real, but these imaginary cash numbers go all the way down through your business, and woohoo, you have profit. Well, the problem is, we don't know what you did with the money in December. We have an idea, but then again, we also meet people who have no idea where the money went. And if you're using the gift card money to pay down yesterday, you really have some issues. Meaning, I really got to do a lot of gift card sales to pay down yesterday's debt, because then you got to get Valentine's Day's got to be good, Mother's Day's got to be a home run, and then you get into that gift certificate welfare kind of thing. So again, what I'm trying to also do for you here is to think about that financial piece. So this was your dream, you started your company, but then you got this financial reality thing. And where a lot of entrepreneurs get in trouble is they don't get a handle on how to control cash when it comes through the business. If you don't have a 12-month cash flow plan that looks into the future month by month, this is what we need to do in sales, service, retail, gift cards. This is what we project our expenses at. If you don't have that looking forward, you're flying financially blind. How many of you have a cash flow plan? Raise them high. Not enough. It's not enough. And thank you for, this is, Truth or Consequences user group here, but thank you for raising your hand and saying you have it. And for all of you that, that don't have it, I appreciate you saying, hey, we don't have it. But what I hope is, am I making you feel a little bit of this? Because July's coming. The game of July starts next week. Do you have a financial game plan for July? Otherwise, in August or maybe even September, you'll get your profit and loss statement for the month of July, and you know what you're going to get? Whatever it was. Whatever it was, because you didn't have the plan to influence what these numbers are going to look like. So again, when we start looking at what did you want to build, but where are you now? There's a gap. So I'm just talking about the numbers and the financial piece for, at this point, but one of the biggest challenges for any entrepreneur is to understand and learn how to manage cash. And to know what those numbers are telling you on your profit and loss statement, and to know that what your numbers are telling you on your balance sheet is telling you how healthy the company is. And if you still look at a balance sheet, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand how to read a balance sheet, and if you're still amazed that they actually balance, You know, I had an accountant's daughter in a financial class a couple of years ago, and she goes, I thought it was just something Dad was doing to make it funny, you know? And it's, no, it really actually has to balance. Who's ever been upside down on a car loan? Or I guess these days we can say upside down on a home loan. But if you've ever been upside down, that means you owe more than it's worth. Well, what if your balance sheet in your company is telling you that your equity is seriously negative, meaning you're upside down inside your own company, that you owe more than you have assets? And if you don't know this stuff, you gotta learn, because you can make it better, and it takes time, but you can make it better, and you can start pushing those numbers in the right direction. All right? Anyone ever have a walkout? Remember those things? Anyone ever have a walkout? Totally unheard of in our industry. No. But it is some of the stuff that we were talking about yesterday that you guys were discussing in here, and we had the front desk in the other room. But, you know, it's like, come on, guys, when are we going to address this stuff? This is low-level interference drag. Lift, drag. Lift, drag. If the system isn't creating lift, it's creating drag. If the employee isn't creating lift, the employee's creating. If the owner isn't creating lift, the owner's creating. This is a drag, all right? All right. So when you start looking at the people piece of your business, and we listen to some of the comments that were made yesterday, we don't trust, they steal. They override decisions. We don't want to bother retailing anymore because of all the infighting that goes on over who gets the credit and who gets the commission. Can we start living above that line? If you have someone inside your company that has opted out of the retail business because of the ick stuff that's surrounding it, because of who gets the credit, you gotta make that go away. You wanna pay retail commissions? All the power to you. How many pay retail commission? How many don't pay retail commission? What's your retail percent of total sales? 8 to 12%. We need to talk. What's your retail percent of total sales? 22%. Pat, where are you? You got the cool hat. See, you should have loaned me your hat, but it's not cool enough because then I could have had a Robert hat. All right, so where are you at? About 13%. All right, who else, no retail commission? Where are you at? 35% with no retail commission. But they just won't be motivated. Who else has some high numbers with no retail commission? 20, 25? What you got? 28? Where's my New Reflections, Charlie's Angels girls? Where are you guys at? About 25, all right? It's not the commission. Can we start living above the line? It's not the commission. Here, let's get away from the retail and just look at it from the service standpoint. How many of you have technicians? I don't care what service they provide, but how many of you have technicians that you're still waiting for the light bulb to go off? I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying you're waiting for the light bulb to go off. I want to make more. Can I cut back a day? I figured out if I can compress how slow I am into 2 days, I'd be busy. All right? And for anyone in here that went through our incubator, you know what that just did. And please pay attention to this. You know what that just did. If you have a part-timer that was slow working, or excuse me, a full-timer that was slow working this much time, and then they got down to 3 days a week and they squeezed their micro-clientele into a couple of days, what just happened? well, I usually refer to them, they're still really slow, they just do it in less time. That's one of my wisecracks. But what happens is if you look at their hourly rate on commission here, and then get their hourly rate on commission when they're only working a few days, all of a sudden their hourly rate went right through the roof. Do you understand what I'm hitting on here? So when we teach something in strategies called team-based pay, which is an hourly rate pay system with a team bonus, and just so you know, what I just told you wasn't all of the instructions on how to convert to team-based pay, because I've had people, you're laughing because you know it's true. We've had people go, oh, so it's hourly, you average it out, and we're on team-based pay. No, you're not, you're in trouble, all right? So, but we've seen a lot of businesses that convert over, and we see part-time people, I'm not saying all of them, but we're seeing part-time people that convert over to really high hourly rates because they compress their time. Not that the talent is there, not that the client retention rates are there, not that the productivity is there. Retail, no, they opted out of that a long time ago. Are you still with me? All right. I'd like to make a suggestion, and we suggest this at Incubator. I don't care what your pay program is. If you're already on team-based pay, you don't need to worry about it. But if you're still paying commission, add the following line to the checkbook stub. Hourly rate on commission. Hourly rate on commission. Now, you are going to have to give the payroll service the hours. Now, something also interesting happens. I'm getting pissed. I don't know if you can tell. I get pissed because of what entrepreneurs tend to do to themselves that wasn't necessary, because you didn't see the mechanics and what was happening behind the scenes, meaning what really happens when some of these things take place. So if you put hourly rate on commission, we hit another particular subject, which is they gotta clock in and they gotta clock out. Does Millennium have a clock in, clock out feature? Yeah, so how many of you have employees that are clocking in and clocking out, all right? How many of you have a problem with employees clocking in and clocking out? All right, but if their pay was based on clocking in and clocking out, you think it would clean up a little bit of that? Although we have people on team-based pay that they still have challenges with that. So you're still with me, all right? So if we add hourly rate on commission on the paycheck, all of a sudden they're going to, what's this? It's your hourly rate on commission. What's that all about? Just thought you'd like to know. Because you know what? You're going to have some people, probably more of your full-time people, that still have room on their book, that you're going to see that their hourly rates are just really not that impressive. But I make 50%. Yeah, you can take 50% to the bank. They just won't know what to do with it. All right? But if your 50% is $14 an hour, or $18 an hour, or $11 an hour, whoop-de-doo. But it motivates me. I don't think so. So if we put hourly rate on commission on the paycheck stub, the one thing it starts to do, it begins to communicate to your employees the following. I'm going to kill a whole bunch of issues with the next statement. Commission is a variable hourly rate based on scheduled work time. The next statement is, how many of you would classify adherence to scheduled hours, meaning if these are the work schedules you designed for people? How many of you would describe your business as a country club, meaning even though you have schedules, people come and go as they please? One of the things that came up in the room yesterday with the front desk people was, you know, stylists or technicians that would call up and go, when's my first appointment? So come on, those of you who didn't raise your hand, you got the problem even though you didn't raise your hand. When's my first appointment? 11 o'clock. I'll be in 11:15. I don't want to break a trend. All right, I'll be in 11:15. By them reducing their hours without permission, first thing they did was take hours out from inventory that you could have sold. It's the first thing that happens. The other thing is it chips away at consistency, it chips away at accountability, and it creates a country club mentality inside your company that when you need to crank things up, it's hard. Okay, guys, we're going for the goal. Huh? What's the goal? Yeah. Go for it. All right, so the statement is, the challenge I have with people staying around when they're not busy is that they create more trouble. All right? Now, one of the key growth indicators is productivity rate. How many of you are on commission now? This will help me. All right. So just go with me on this. Or not. But how much more time do I have to aggravate everybody in the room? 20 minutes? Oh, man, I can do a lot of damage in 20 minutes. How am I doing? All right. Okay. So for those of you that are on commission, when it got slow, what did you do to the work schedules? What did you do to the work schedules when it got slow? How many of you didn't do that much? How many of you didn't do that much cutting? Because it's easy. You don't have to have the conversation because, man, it's slow. We're all in pain, aren't we? Right? So if they're on commission and they're slow, sales are down, payroll's down. Thank God. Sales are down, payroll's down. Thank God. Hey, it's really slow today, huh? Sucks, huh? Yeah, it really sucks. This place sucks. Because it always comes back to the place. This place sucks. It's the owner's fault we're slow. All right? We want more, but we're slow. I don't care, we want more. All right? So, this is one of the challenges that some people find when they go to a team-based pay. And I'm not selling you team-based pay. I'm trying to talk to you about the dynamics of what happens in your company and where leadership avoids certain conversations or certain decisions. We call it compromise. It's when you see it, you acknowledge it as a problem, but you don't do anything about it. In a team-based pay salon, all right, here, commission. How many of you have seen me do this Chinese thing? I actually have pictures of a class I did in Taipei, and they were all doing this. It was crazy. But revenue, payroll. If you're on commission, it's really attached to this number because it's a percentage of this, all right? So sales are down. Oh, thank God. All right? But you know what happens when it goes the other way? WTF. That's a trade association. All right? But when sales do this on commission, you're looking at your payroll going, damn. We were really busy. Where's the happiness? All right? And we got the opposite in a fixed payroll business. Sales are here, payroll's fixed. Sales are down. Oh man, this is killing me. So you got to make decisions about payroll. You got to do what any other company on the face of the earth has to do. If sales are down, you got to make adjustments. And if you really don't want to make adjustments, you got to turn up the volume. It's the call to action. What's it like in your company if you have a call to action? Guys, we got to hit that number. How come? Because we gotta, man. Because if we don't hit the number, we can't make payroll, we can't pay health insurance, we can't pay the rent, we can't do this, we can't do that. We gotta hit the number. That's your problem, man. Because it's so easy to allow that I, me mentality to start filtering into your company. And it filters in, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you can't live on the piece that you get, have you ever had an employee say the following? I give you half of what I bring in. That's a real trade association. Did you get that one? You got that one? All right. An employee says, I give you half of what I bring in. Wait a minute, this thing is all crazy here. No, we pay. All right, so, anyway. So if you have to have a call to action that we need to hit the numbers, what do you get inside your company? What do you get? Yeah, you got to get the sense of urgency, but that team really needs to rally, which means you got to have a leader. Hey, Pat, can I tell your story real? I'm gonna. All right. Stand up and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, my name is Pat. I'm a Neil Ducoff assistant. I also work with my wife on a software in Virginia called Keynote, and we've used Neil for every year.
You've used me well. And when the new location opens when?
Yeah, this fall.
All right. What's your service payroll percent?
Our service payroll percent hourly is about 25%, but we also have an incentive, a unique guest retention incentive that adds another 10 to 11%.
Did everyone hear that? No? Pat, come
Okay,
on.
let me shout.
Thank you.
25% on the hourly rate, team-based pay, and we also include an incentive called the guest retention incentive, which runs about 10 or 11%. It's about 35 to 36%.
All right. So service payroll with the guest incentive, meaning you want to earn more. What do we have to do in a service business? We got to get the customers to come back. So just one little piece with Pat, his service payroll, first is it's a fixed cost, so you can manage it, and you know the one thing that you never want to have to do is cut that payroll, because it's not fun. So the better alternative is I got to drive revenue, and I got to push really, really hard. But the whole team's got to play. How many have people that are booked solid? They got waiting lists? What are you going to do when they say, I want to make more money? We're going to raise the prices. Thank you for falling into the trap. Again, we get back to the basic low-level industry responses to bigger issues. They're booked solid, we raise the prices. Yeah?
Neil, when you were going like this, comparing fixed to percent, what prompted my brain was yesterday a comment that was made about trust, which is if you're going like this, you don't have to have real conversations with your people. If you're going like this, you have to have those conversations with your people.
Yeah. Everyone catch that? All right. You sent me an email 4 or 5 months ago. They do daily huddles. How many of you doing daily huddles? All right. If you're not doing daily huddles, how do you share information in your company about what needs to happen today? We have monthly meetings. Wow, 12 information flow meetings a year. I feel the urgency. But daily huddles, every day, short, fast, we're getting the information out there. So you're doing the daily huddles, and they were having an issue with people arriving late. All right? And I'll have it generally right. Having an issue with people arriving late, so they decided to do something at Mango that they didn't really care to do, but they had to do it because, hey, work begins when you got to be there for the huddle. How many of you have employees that believe work begins when the first client's scheduled? That's completely a leadership issue that you've got to get a handle on. If your employees, if your service providers think work begins when the first client is scheduled, you've got work to do. You've got some stuff to clean up. So you guys started to lock the back door. Oh, we'll do your story next. All right. And you know I do it better than you. All right. But so they started locking the door so they couldn't get in. And the employees started grumbling. Can you do a really ultra condensed? How much time do I have? All right. Can you do a real condensed thing on that, on what you told them at the meeting?
All right, here's what we told them when we were getting grumbling, and people have a tendency to grumble. We called a special huddle together, and what I told our team was, I suffered from a disease, and that I couldn't compromise on locking the back door for people to be at the huddle. And when I said that I'm suffering from a disease, everyone's eyes went really open. It says, here's my disease. I suffer from the disease of high expectations. I expect you to be here early every morning, and you expect me to continue working hard for you. We will always expect you to be at a huddle on time, and we will continue to lock the door until everyone can be at the huddle. We no longer have to lock the door. Everyone is at the huddle every single morning.
Bonnie had two, there were stylists. One was an esthetician, one was a stylist. They were coming in late. Do you want to do your story? Okay, all right. They were coming in late. Bonnie talked to them a few times, continued to come in late for the huddles. Your huddles are 8:45, all right? Holds them in the front of the salon in the retail area. So we're in the retail area, front door's over there, here's the windows, and over there, by the front desk, you can go down a hallway into the salon and the spa area, and also get to the computers to check in, to clock in. So these guys would always come in late, and I have to embellish and just say they would go behind the group with the Groucho marks, sort of down below the head, and they would kind of pop up in the back of the group. But they were doing this. What does everybody in the company see? That they're getting away. We're here on time, and these two characters keep coming in late. When is the leader going to do something about this? When's the leader going to do something about this? So Bonnie had already talked to him. Finally, at the end of this one huddle, she goes, hang out at the front desk for a minute. Hang out at the front desk for a minute. Huddle breaks. She walks up to the two of them and says, it is a beautiful day out. Go enjoy it. Now, this is where I love to watch the faces of the owners. But we're booked. Not a problem. We'll take care of it. Go and enjoy the day. And think about your commitment to this company and when you need to be here at work. But we're booked. And I could hear, I could feel it with the owners in the room going, but they were booked. That's gonna hurt. But when do you start to draw the line? Part of this is you want to close the gap, then you got to step up and lead your company like a company needs to be led. You've got to have conversations that you may not like to have, but there are times where you got to switch into leadership mode, and with respect and those 13 behaviors we've been talking about since yesterday morning, you have to have that conversation with your people and say, do I have your permission to talk straight? Yeah, I've never heard anyone say that, and you gotta let it out respectfully. Not blame, not pointing, but this is a situation, you're in trouble. This is a situation that needs to go away. What do we have to do to make it go away? Because if we can't make it go away, this may not be the place for you to work. Now you may say, that's a really, really tough environment that Bonnie's got there. You're really tough, all right? But she just had an employee, when did, whatever her name is, call you? Maggie? She called, how long? See, I got you with the mic.
We had a stylist that went through our internship program, was with us for about 3.5 years, and told me a couple months ago she wanted to leave our company to move downtown Chicago. We're in the suburbs, about 45 minutes away. So we left on good terms, and we wished her well, and we had a going away party for her and everything. And we knew we weren't going to lose our clients because we have a great team of stylists that could take her clients. And she called me and wanted her job back. So negotiated. She starts July 5th. She's coming back.
And Bonnie told me she talked to her yesterday and said, "You're coming back as a new hire."
She was. We've been negotiating a little. She wanted to get her Saturdays back, which she lost when she left because other stylists wanted to grab the busy Saturdays, and she was eligible for a week's vacation pay. So by leaving the company, she lost the ability to have vacation for another year, and also she's now going to start back on Sundays. She's going to have to work Sundays to Saturday opens up.
Because she wants back into the culture. She wants back into this type of environment because she couldn't find it in Chicago. Bonnie's in Deer Park, Illinois, outside of Chicago. So again, the reason I'm going through this stuff, when we talk about if you have stylists that are booked solid and they have waiting lists, what are we going to do? The knee-jerk reaction has always been, let's raise their prices. But then how convoluted does your price structure get? So again, if you keep looking at what happens next, if we do this, then what? Then what? Then what? Then, and also, how many of you are also concerned about, we're an industry where client loyalty gets literally locked into the service provider, especially on the hair end. And we do everything we can to feed it. How many of you track request rate? Not retention, but request. Stop! Why do you track requests? So we know how big of a following they're building, so we track exactly how much damage you can do to our company should you decide to leave and we don't charge extra. But when I opened my first salon when I was 23 years old, when I opened my first salon, I was tracking request rate because that's what they did in the company that I worked for before me. And it's been going on for years and years and years. That's why we have the MAO40 report. Client retention. That's what Pat uses to come up with how the bonuses work in his company. The MAO40. How many new came in here? How many of them came back? I want you, request. I came in, I tried you, I was a first-time client, I wasn't impressed, I'm not coming back. Woohoo, look at the nice request rate. Request is all happy numbers. Don't track request anymore. Don't even bother, it's not telling you what you need to know about your company. And if you're using request rate to establish the pecking order, and if you've got this much of your clientele requesting you move to a higher price rate, or you move to a higher commission rate or sliding scale or whatever. Step back and look at what these things are doing. So you're telling me the more people that I get locked into me, the more I can, quote unquote, get from the company. So that's what the system is communicating, rather than everyone is responsible for every hour the company has available for sale. Everyone is responsible for every hour the company has available for sale. You want to start closing the gap between where you are now and where you want to be? Then you got to get into client sharing. Team service, we'll just call it. And you know what? We had more technicians, primarily stylists, we had more technicians freak out over client sharing than pay conversions. Yeah, team-based pay, yeah, whatever. But my clients are they're gonna go see someone else. Yeah, because if they can't get in with you, you got them on a waiting list. You're like the Miami airport here. You got them in a holding pattern. They want to land, and if they can't land, they're going to go land someplace else when they run out of fuel. So if they need a haircut and they can't get in with you, and they're only used to going to, Salon Fred, How many of you ever serviced a client? You're doing a haircut on a client or something, and you go, wow, where'd you get this bad haircut, right? Or the client says, geez, I couldn't get in with you last time. Oh, so, who'd you go to? Oh, I went to, salon whatever down the street. How many of you ever had that happen? Doesn't that just fry your brain? Let me see. We have all these other stylists here, and because you couldn't get in with me, you went to a whole other business? That is an indicator that that's driving you crazy, isn't it? All right? Then you got to change your business model, because your business model is producing that sort of outcome. How many of you want to get to the next level? How many are just happy where you are? No, I know. Yeah, Matthew is, but you want to. All right, Matthew's happy where he is. Okay. All right. You want to get to the next level. I have been granted by the IPPY Award group. No, I have been granted the power to move you to the next level. How about that? You want to get there? I'm going to fast track you. All right? How many want to go to the next level? Because you're going right now. Come on, let's see a show of hands. Come on, if you're not raising your hand, then what's going on here? All right, so you want to get to the next level. All right? Okay. I officially knight you next level. Give me a round of applause. Woo! Come on, look. Woo! And next level. Come on, Dennis. High five. Yeah! Next level. Come on there. All right, how many of you are going to go back to the minors in about a week? Think about it. You want to get to the next level, you got to play that game today. Because if you don't play the game today, you're going to get sent back. A pitcher taken from the minors, playing Yankee fan, playing in Yankee Stadium. Playing in Yankee Stadium. Whoa. They're just like mesmerized. Right? If they don't play like the major league that night, where are they going to be at the end of the night? Scranton. Right. They'll be back in Scranton, Pennsylvania. All right? So here's the deal. You want to get to the next level. You want to start closing the gap. You have to do work that you haven't done before. You have to make decisions that you haven't done before. You've got to live the 13 trust behaviors in a way that you never have before. You may have to reduce hours. You may not be able to have as many people on staff because, idle hands, idle minds, we have all sorts of that crazy stuff that can begin to happen. You've got to get into your financial reports. You've got to understand what everything says. If you're held hostage by your accountant, oh my God, how do you be held hostage by an accountant? No offense to accountants. But my accountant has all the numbers, then get all your numbers and go get another accountant if you're not getting the service that you need. But also understand that if you don't like the stuff that you're getting from your accountant, you're part of the problem because you weren't asking for it. So you got to get a handle on your financial reality. What's really going on? That was one of the behaviors I went over yesterday. Confront reality. You got to get a handle on where you are financially. If your service payroll isn't between 30 and 35% of gross revenue, you got a payroll problem. Well, if it's under 30, okay, but it's kind of hard to get it below that. Are you with me on that number? Yes?
Is that just looking at your service numbers or total?
Gross sales, service and retail, 30 to 35%. If your retail business is 40, 45, 50%, we need to look at it a different way. But for most of you in here, 30 to 35% for service payroll as a percent of total revenue. And if you're paying 50% commission, you can't get there. If you're doing a service charge, you can't get there. If you're having a hard time, man, expenses keep going up, I got to do something. How many of you put in service charges? All right? Wasn't that fun? No, you're still making the same commission. We just sliced off some before we calculated it. And everybody knows what that is. I mean, it's just, all you're doing is lowering the commission rate a little bit. But you know what? For all of you that have done the product cost deductions or service charges, that's a stressful thing to go through. You got to explain it time and time again to everybody. You tampered with payroll. You did a pay conversion. But if you just raised prices 10% or something like that, it probably wasn't enough, especially if you don't have financial controls, it probably wasn't enough to really make a difference on the bottom line. It needed to be bigger, deeper, especially these days. So you want to close the gap. You want to reconnect with this. You want to not have to worry about having owners' nights, which is the 2:30, 3:30, wake up in a cold sweat night. If you want to have fun in your business again, then part of that's going to require you to lead at a level that you haven't been before. If you haven't read No Compromise Leadership, No Compromise Leadership is the thinking that you better have in place if you want to live the 13 behaviors. Because No Compromise says it's got to get done, and the 13 behaviors, if you don't have the it's got to get done piece, then it's a good book. It's like any other good book or any other business system. No Compromise says if it needs to be done, it gets done. It means if there are things that you don't like to do in your company, but it needs to be done, you got to find a way to make it happen. Whether you're doing it or you're having someone else with the expertise to come in and do it, but it needs to be done. The performance reviews, the financial planning, the daily huddles, all of that stuff needs to happen precisely, predictably. If you have someone right now in your company who's working for the competition on your payroll, and they're working for the competition on your payroll, you need to have that fierce conversation, and you need to help them decide if they want to be part of your company or go really on the competition's payroll. But you also have to take ownership in what led to that point. What do you own in the deterioration of a really good, solid employee that could have made it well in your company, but you weren't giving it the attention that it needed? You want to get to the next level? I just gave you permission. I knighted you all next level. The question is, will you play at that level now to get there? Because you can't be in the minor leagues and think if you keep playing at this level, you're going to make it to this thing that you really want. So if you want to close the gap, go No Compromise. Make the decision to lead your company the way it needs to be. If you need help, talk to me. I'm going to hang out at the booth outside when I'm not doing classes. Talk to Daryl. Daryl, raise your hand. There's Daryl. Daryl, stand up so they can see you. And then Bruce is probably somewhere out there or in here or something. But, talk to us, whatever we can do to help you. Make it to a strategies incubator. We have one coming up in September. Learn some of these new systems and how they work. And with that being said, I want to thank John Harms for writing the foreword to my book so I could win an IPPY award. And I also want to applaud John and Harms Software for making the decision based on the economy to skip a year of users group, because that was a really hard decision. But we got it back. We got it back. Please support the user group conference so we can hold this thing every year, because everyone coming and using this type of software, you can come and learn and have that common bond is absolutely extraordinary. Thank you all. I'll see you in my classes.